This one too. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We are on Surah Al-Qamar, Surah number 54 and ayah number 6 is on. As you know, the surah starts off with the idea that Qiyamah is near, as the moon has been split into two. We discussed some of the issues there, and this is addressing the kuffar of the Quraysh, where they would not believe in anything. Even if they saw miracles, they would not believe. So the Quran now says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Fatawalla anhum," so turn away from them, ignore their disbelief. Don't worry about preoccupying yourself with how to make them believe. They will come when Allah wants them to come, but you have to do your job, and that is to spread the word. يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِ إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ, because a time will come when they will respond to the caller. You are a caller here in this world, they're not responding to you. But there will be a time when they respond to a caller, and that is on the Day of Judgment. So they may ignore you, but they won't ignore someone else who calls them towards their hisab and towards their audit and towards their fate. يَوْمَ يَدْعُ الدَّاعِ إِلَى شَيْءٍ نُكُرٍ, the day when the caller will call to something that they will dislike, something that is not good for them. Nukur. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is informing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that whether they respond here, which is better for them, or respond in the akhirah, which is not so good for them, they will respond. خُشَّ عَنْ أَبْصَارُهُم, where their eyes will be lowered from khasha'ah and khushu'. خُشَّ عَنْ أَبْصَارُهُم, their sights will be lowered and humbled. They will not be able to look up other than their own, piece of land that is in front of them on the ground. And they'll have to humble themselves on that day. يَخْرُجُونَ مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ كَأَنَّهُمْ جَرَادٌ مُنْتَشِرٌ, they will come out from their graves as if they are loci, swarming loci, locusts and loci, where there are insects, and insects fly towards somewhere, or sometimes not towards anywhere. But there will be a horde and a swarm of loci, and they will have to come all together as if they are flying towards their destination. The plight where there is no volition, basically. Nothing will be in their hands. They will have consumed their volition here in this world. In the other world, they won't have any volition left, so they'll just have to go wherever gravity takes them. So they don't know their final place of resting. مُهْطِعِينَ إِلَى الدَّاعِ, there's only one guide there, and there's only one compass there, and that will be the one who is calling. So they will hear the sound and they will swarm towards this one noise, one sound. Yeah, so this is the plight of those who refuse to believe here in this world. So in this world, you have volition. You have the choice to believe or not to believe. You have the choice to acquiesce or not to acquiesce. But there, as you come out from your graves on the day of judgment, you won't know who you are, what you are doing, and where you're going. You'll be forced into moving towards wherever this one caller, who is an angel, is calling you towards. يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسير. The kafir will say, today this is a difficult day, very harsh day, Yasir. The Quran describes days as if they are alive, and they are alive. Time is alive. So here you've already seen the day this will happen, the day this will happen. And then this day for the kafir will be extremely difficult. They will not be able to do anything themselves for themselves. It's a terrible day, terrible. The Quran also speaks of the day, يَوْمًا عَبُوسًا قَمْطَرِيرًا. So the day is always described as if it is a real thing, and it is real, as I said, time is real. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses now this phraseology to inform the kuffar and the Quraysh, and you have to remember that obviously they're masters of the Arabic language, so they know what is the style, they know what is the balagha, they know what is the insight into how each word is pristine, each word is precise, and each word is penetrating and piercing, and it uproots any of their abilities to bring any word that is even remotely similar to the words that the Quran is using. When you understand the Arabic and the balagha of how this is, so this is something that it comes upon you when you're reading the Arabic. When you read in the Arabic, it'll just be mesmerized by the precision and the detail and the accuracy that each word gives you as a listener. And you have to remember that, this is all about a lot of, poetry, poetic insights, the eloquence, the mastery of the etymology, and all of that. Yawmun Asir. How do you come up with such an expression? A very difficult day. What's a very difficult day? A day when nothing is easy for you. It will be easy for others. It's not easy for you, and it's not easy for you because of your kufr. It's a day where your being and your inner conscious is now dictating how time is in front of you. So actions here are making or breaking your time. That's the power of aqidah. That's the power of kufr and iman. So the Quran is piercing into the minds and hearts of the Quraysh, and they're simply mesmerized by the weight of the language. This surah precedes Surah Al-Rahman. So in terms of literary brilliance, it is a prelude to the literary brilliance of Surah Al-Rahman, as you will see. Yeah. So you must appreciate the Arabicness of what the Quran is bringing. If you don't know Arabic, then you can suffice with whatever translation there is in front of you. But this is the beauty of the language itself. Is overwhelming. That's where the mu'jiza is. That's why the Quran overwhelms the senses and the rationale and the intellect, and also any kind of artistic ability that a human being may imagine or think of. Anyway, so this is a very difficult day. The day is difficult for the kafir, extremely difficult. He won't be able to come out of the difficulty, as you'll see later on. It is juxtaposed with the Quran itself, as you will see. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر. And in reference to the kuffar, this is now in human history, This has always happened, so you don't have to be weakened by the idea that your people are not listening. It's not just your people, it's every people who refuse to believe in any Nabi, any Rasul, any element of the truth. They denied because they wanted to enjoy this life. And the Rasul said, no, you can enjoy this life, but not at the expense of eternal punishment and doom. So, كذبت قوم نوح, the people of Nuh were known to the Arabs. And the Quran is always addressing according to how much knowledge the Arabs had. So they knew about Nuh alayhi salam, and they knew the idols of Nuh alayhi salam also. كذبت قبلهم قوم نوح. So the people of Nuh before, they denied and refused to believe. فَكَذَّبُوا عَبْدَنَا, they denied our servant, who is the Rasul, alayhi salam, meaning they not only denied Allah, refused to believe in Allah, but they also refused to believe in the servant who is bringing the message from Allah, and that is where the kufr is. The kufr is in disbelief of the human being, not just of Allah. If you believe in Allah and disbelieve in the human being who is the Rasul, then you're kafir. So that is how you must see the human value in Islam. Islam has to have a human face, not some abstract value and concept that you don't believe in or you do believe in. It's the human being. The human being says, I am a Rasul, and that's it. Finish. You have to believe. If you deny the human being, you are denying God. So that's how the institution works. Abdana, our servant, and he is our servant because he does what we ask him to do. He's not self-appointed. Okay, he does not claim he is a Rasul. He is told to tell people he is a Rasul. وَقَالُوا مَجْنُونٌ وَازْدُجِرٌ. Yeah. So they said to him what everybody says to a Rasul, that he is a madman. He's not in his senses. He's not in his wits. He doesn't have any balance or equilibrium in his mind. He's out of whack. He's out of sync. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's doing, which is usually the things people say about anyone who believes in Allah and the Rasul, and so on. And also was dujir. He was threatened that the people of Nuh alayhi salam would sometimes bring him into their homes and they would manhandle him, they would strangle him, and they would beat him, and so on. So this is now the perils of being a Rasul. Is not a piece of cake. It's an honor, but more than an honor, it's a responsibility where you have to go through the mill. You will be tested severely if you are Rasul. That's just how it works. Allah's fadl is here, wahi is here, I see the nur, I have this, that. No, you're going to be whacked, you're going to be pushed around, you're going to be bullied, you're going to be persecuted, you're going to be kicked out of your hometown. That's just the way it works. It comes with the territory. If you're not willing to do that, then you should not exist, basically. So the Rasul has immense resilience. Okay, the Rasul has immense patience, which no other human being can have or deliver. It is beyond us. For 900 plus years, Nuh alayhi salam said the same thing to his people all over the world. He traveled the world. He had 950 years to do so. He went everywhere. He went to every people, and he told them, this is Allah. This is how you worship Allah, and so on. But then he went through this phase of torture, persecution, resilience, patience, which is, as I said, not found in any other human being. Yeah. So eventually, when push came to shove, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Nuh alayhi salam, إِنَّهُ لَن يُؤْمِنَ مِنْ قَوْمِكَ إِلَّا مَنْ قَدْ آمَنَ, that nobody else is going to believe from your people other than those who have already believed. So when that warning came to Nuh alayhi salam and that news came, then he started to rethink his position And after rethinking, he realized that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan was to just destroy these people. So he then made dua. فَدَعَا رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَغْلُوبٌ. So then he made dua to his Lord. Indeed, I am overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed with the kufr of the kafir. I have nothing else I can offer within my means and abilities. فَانْتَصِرْ. So now help me. Seek revenge for me. Intasar is a word for vindication also. Vindicate me, help me overcome these people, because they have not at all conceded anything for so many centuries. And when that's the case, and you've informed me that they won't believe, no one else is going to believe, so that the order, as I'm reading your order, news that comes to a Nabi usually has an order in it. Here's the khabar usually is accompanied with a hukum. You have to interpret the hukum if you're a Nabi with the khabar. And if you do that correctly, then Allah definitely will help you, which is another test. How to read Allah's news. How do you see the sign? How do you read the signs? How do you read the code? How do you read the cosmos? How do you read what's going on in the universe? How do you read what's happening here to you? The weather, the climate, all of that. So if you read it correctly, known as an ayah, a sign, then Allah will help according to your himmah, according to your dua. So now Nuh alayhi salam faced with the whole world. Nuh alayhi salam, one side, the whole world minus the 85, 86 believers who are with him. Now they have to stand up to now the kuffar, and they have to withstand the trial and the test. And say, now the Nabi by instinct, innately Nabi is only khair. Okay? A Nabi has no shar in him. A Nabi has no evil in him. A Nabi never wants to make any kind of curse or badua for anybody. He's not in the Nabi. He's not part of his portfolio. It doesn't exist. Unless there's an amr, unless there's a hukum from Allah, do this, then he will do it because he is a Rasulullah. Okay? So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam never wanted to fight any kafir. And he told the Sahaba, La tatamannu liqa al-adu, don't wish to meet the enemy. So that's not in the portfolio of any Nabi. He's all khair. He's all goodness. There's no evil in him. There's no ability in a Nabi to harm any creature of Allah. It's simply not there. Okay? The only time he will do so is when the amr of Allah is there. When the hukm of Allah, that will overcome his, now, what we call his personality. It will override his instincts and his innate disposition. He won't do it himself. He won't initiate a fight. Right? So you have to get that aqidah correct. The Nabi is all khair. Nabi is all good. So here, after reading the signs and the khabar of Allah, that no one else is going to believe, then Nuh alayhi salam now decides that this is the time I have to bring about their destruction. And he does that through the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَدَعَا رَبَّهُ أَنِّي مَغْلُوبٌ فَانْتَصِرْ. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay. So in between this and the acceptance of the dua, there's a phase. In this phase, there is obviously the building of the ship, building of the ark, preparing people. In this time, he's still asking people to believe and come on board with him. He doesn't give up, even then. I made the bad dua, that's it, you're useless, you're hopeless, there's no cause in here. So he doesn't do that. He continues the da'wah, and he builds the ship. Okay? As he's building, they're mocking him, they're deriding him, they're yelling at him, they're shouting at him, and all of that. But he doesn't care. He brings all the material he needs, and he brings on board all the animals that need to be saved which is a prophetic mission, by the way. You do need to save animals. Don't say it's only for the Green Party or whoever it is. It is a Muslim thing to save animals. So don't look down upon it because the kafirs do it. No, you have to save the animals. They're part of the environment. They're part of the ecology. They're the reason why you have rain, right? As the Prophet ﷺ said. Yeah. Allah gives rain because of the animals. The animals need rain and they need rizq and so on. So Nuh alayhi salam reads the message of Allah very clearly. So he is instructed to save and protect the species, all species. For that you need a lot of knowledge about birds and animals and insects and everything else. He brings all of them aboard. How do you do that? And then he has to build quarters on the ship where he can house all of these different species. They're all at each other's throats. So how do you house them? Which compartment do you put them in? And then you have to bring in the water, you have to bring in the food, the fodder for the animals to survive. It's a major campaign. It's not simply he brought all the animals together. How do you bring it? You can't bring a cat and a dog together. How do you bring all these animals together? Right? There's a lot of knowledge there in Nuh alayhi salam, which you simply overlook. Then he has to bring the plants too. He brings in the plants and the fruits and everything else that need to be kept so that people, when they come off the ship, they will be able to live. So he's planning now for the future. And this is how you do it. You plan for the future. Muslims used to do this. In North Africa, they would have nowadays, sanctuaries for birds. And they would camp on this side of the Mediterranean, the southern side, which is North Africa, and then they would fly over to the northern side into France and Spain and Italy. And then when they came back, they had the food ready for them when they flew back on this side. They were organized. They thought of the environment. They thought of ecology. They thought of beings, Allah's creatures. And they said, oh, no, we are stewards. We are the khulafa of everything that exists. So we will take care of them because it's our duty. And so on. So that's from the sunnah of Nuh alayhi salam, that human beings have this will and desire to protect all animals and to protect all species. Obviously, some species we don't really approve of in terms of consuming them and being friendly with them, but they're still Allah's creation. You have to respect that and do what you need to do as a state. It's fard on the state to protect species. Right? Yeah, so you do need money for that. You need resources for that. You need the mindset also to be able to say, this is a sunnah of Nuh alayhi salam. This is a prerogative of the Muslim state to protect everything. If you killed all the chicken, you'd have no chicken left. You have to farm them, you have to raise them, you have to breed them, you have to provide for them, you have to take care of them, you have to make sure that everything's, for lack of a better word, organic. And not do anything to disturb the species. So anyway, so Nuh alayhi salam, while he's now making the ship and he's gathering all the animals, he's still giving da'wah. To the last minute, he's giving da'wah. He's giving da'wah to his son as the flood is coming. Yeah. So as I said, there is no shar in any Nabi. A Nabi cannot think evil and wish evil for anybody. Except when Allah's amr comes. When Allah's amr comes, he will do what Allah wants and overcome his personality. Yeah, and that is the way for Muslims to read the stories of the Anbiya and the Prophets. So as now the dua is being accepted, there are signs for the acceptance of the dua, that water will gush out from the oven, as we know. So when water gushed out from the oven, then he told his people, let's board the ship. As that happened, this happened also. فَفَتَحْنَا أَبْوَابَ السَّمَاءِ بِمَاءٍ مُنْهَمِرٍ. So we opened wide the gates of the sky, of the heavens, with the water coming down, gushing, munhamir, gushing. torrential downpour. And opening the doors of the sky is good only if it's with barakah. Open the gates of the heavens for me. That's one way. That when the gates of the heavens open, this is what happens. Adhab comes. So we say, open the doors with khair. فتحنا عليهم أبواب السماء بركات السماء والأرض. بركات من السماء. So we need barakah. We just don't need opening. Opening with barakah and afiyah is the Muslim's way to bring down khair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how the heavens poured and rain and rain and rain and rain. Not only that, وَفَجَّرْنَا الْأَرْضَ عُيُونًا, and then we caused the earth to come out with its springs. So there's a lot of water in the earth, and the earth just gushed out all of its water. So there's water from the sky, water from the earth, and it is nothing but rain, nothing but torrential downpour, and the uprising of water from the ground, not from the sea, from the ground itself. So now you can imagine and put yourself in that spectacle and see what kind of spectacle is that. You see, water everywhere, nothing except water. So you don't know what to do with yourself. So then the only place of refuge was, the ship. Yeah, Allah talks about the ship here. Also, the next ayah. فَالْتَقَى الْمَاءُ عَلَى أَمْرٍ قَدْ قُدِرَ. So now the waters of the sky, the waters of the earth, they met each other at an appointed fixed time and fixed place, and there's nothing except water. All around you, you are submerged in water. And how you think at that time, nobody knows. But Nuh alayhi salam had protected his people, and they were on board the ship, and this is how Allah saves them. وَحَمَلْنَاهُ عَلَى ذَاتِ أَلْوَاحٍ وَدُسُرٍ. That we carried them on something that had planks and had nails, which is a huge, enormous mu'jiza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he had these 70, 80 odd people on a ship and there's nothing except water. And how do you expect any vessel to survive that? Right? If you had a Titanic, it wouldn't survive it. But this simple piece of engineering genius that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed Nuh alayhi salam to engineer through the instruction of Jibreel, ala amrina wa wahyina wa amrina, that through wahy, where Jibreel alayhi salam was there informing and teaching Nuh alayhi salam how to actually construct the ship. So that's just simple genius. You can't do that as a human being. How are you going to withstand the pressure of tons and tons of water? There's no ship, no vessel that can sustain that kind of pressure, that kind of power, that kind of energy. So Allah says, وَحَمَلْنَاهُ, we carried them. It was because we allowed Nuh alayhi salam to engineer and construct the boat in this superb way that they were able to withstand the pressure of the water and the flood and the rain and the wind and everything else. Not only that, so waves that were like mountains. Jibal kattawd al-azim. The Quran says that there were mountains that are waves. You see the tidal waves and people go surfing on the killer waves and so on, but this is more than that. Is that the waves were like mountains. How do you survive that kind of wave? So it is through the fadl of Allah, His power. So it's Allah showing both His names, the Jalali names, the Jamali names. The Jalali meaning the majestic names of power, sheer brute strength in the form of the waves, in the form of the water, in the form of everything else. And it rained for 40 days, by the way. Wasn't that the 1 hour thing? 40 days and 40 nights. And then you're there with Nuh alayhi salam in this ship, and you don't know what's going on outside. You're just scared. You're just frightened. So that's fright. That's intimidation for you. But then Allah's Jamal, His beautiful names of protection and Hafiz protected the people and the ship. Not just the people, Allah protected the ship also from capsizing, from breaking up. But what was it on? What was it made of? The simplest of things. Al-Wahin, boards, planks of wood. Wasn't some, super constructed synthetic material, fiber, or anything else. It's just planks of wood. Wadusur, and pegs that held the wood together, nails. Nails, if you agree there was iron there. If you don't agree there's iron there, then pegs, wooden pegs would do the job. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made sure that Nuh alayhi salam constructed each peg and put together the planks together and bound them together precisely so that they would never break. And so you have to think about this. You have to think about the intellectual genius of Nuh alayhi salam. Don't just read it. It's a magnificent miracle story. Read into the details. Then understand your jahil. What you have to do? You have to submit. We're jahil. We have no technology that can do this. Right? There's no technology on the planet that can do this. But Allah's Amr and Allah's Wahi allowed Nuh alayhi salam to create such a specimen. That is Allah's fadl on Nuh alayhi salam. Never mind the animals, just understanding of that, the al-Wahin wa dusur. A thing with planks and pegs, wooden pegs or nails. It doesn't matter which one it is, whether it was the Iron Age or Stone Age, it doesn't matter to us. People object and say there was no iron at the time of Nuh. How does the Quran say those are the nails there? So we say we don't care. So what we know is that Nuh alayhi salam used something to make sure it didn't capsize. So whether that something is a peg, a wooden peg, or whether that something is iron, who cares? The proof's in the pudding. Never mind your anthropology and the Stone Age and the Iron Age. Who cares? You classify that, and you can worry about that. What we know is what we see here, and that is pure wahi. Tajri bi'ayurina, and it runs and flows in front of our eyes. Our protection. Allah is saying, we were observing the ship all the time. We were protecting the ship as it kind of meandered. Or tossing and turning with the waves in the sea and in the storm, and there's no light. You have to remember, there's all darkness. There's no light here. If the rain's coming down from the heavens, you don't see the sun, you don't see anything. You're submerged within the clouds, there's all darkness, and you have now the water from underneath also. You're in total darkness, but Allah says, Tajri bi'ayunina. The ship flows in front of our eyes. We are supervising the route of the ship also, because the ship is being navigated by Allah's Amr, and it has to now stop somewhere. So that's why Nuh alayhi salam was given the dua, Bismillahi majriha wa mursaha, inna rabbi laghafurur rahim. That is, now this is flowing. Bismillah, with Allah's name, it's flowing. It has a course, majra. And it has a place of anchoring also. It's a place, it knows the course by which it can go through the waves, and it knows where to stop and land and port. This is how precise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's amr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan is for Nuh alayhi salam and the ship and the people in the ship. Jaza'an liman kana kufir. Now, as the kafir is onlooking and it sees the ship is flowing and we're drowning, this is a punishment for what people denied, basically. For those who had now definitely refused to believe in the servant, who is Nuh alayhi salam, this is another punishment. That they're seeing that Nuh is free and he's saved and he has escaped the punishment, we're still here doomed inside the water, inside the waves, and so on. جزاء لمن كان كفر ولقد تركناها آية فهل من مدكر. That indeed we have left it as a sign. If there's anyone who can take heed, is there anyone who can look at this mu'jizah and this miracle and this ayah and say, no, I believe. I submit to Allah's will. I submit to Allah's power. I appreciate Allah has majestic power, domineering power, overwhelming power. I'm not relying just on the beautiful names. I'm also believing in these names that bring about retribution and bring about punishment. So there you have to balance the ship, basically. You're on the ship, you're going up and down, up and down. So you have your own ship of Iman, you have to balance your Iman. I'm not relying on Allah's beautiful names. I'm not taking Him for granted. He can punish. Okay, that's another sign. Allah can and does punish, so don't take God for granted. You have to believe, and you have to do what He wants you to do. You have to behave, and if you don't, He might just do something that you don't like, and you will then blame Him. He is God. How can He do that? He's doing that because He is God. Because He can. Yeah, you took advantage of His generosity and you took Him for granted. It doesn't work that way. You have to have Iman. You have to balance this ship in the sea of your life, basically. So if there's torrential downpour, you have to calm down. You have to believe in Allah. You have to say astaghfirullah. Don't blame Him. Blame yourself. And that's when it flows. Then your ship will take course towards your destination, which is your salvation. And so, I mean, these are ayat that you can perceive and understand through reading the story with the eye of basira, your inner eye, and say, how does this apply to me? Yeah, it's a good story for school children, but it's a better story for you. Yeah. We kind of dump everything on the kids. And let's think about the kids. How about you? Are you going to save yourself? Or you just want to save your kids? The kids won't save you, as you know. They'll just go off somewhere into another zone. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anyone who can take heed in the ayat, in the lessons, and in the story of Nuh alayhi salam, where the Prophet ﷺ was able to split the moon in half, something so stable? He said, no, we're going to put half the moon this way and put the other half this way. Now, let's see who is God. You're not God. Yeah. Allah is Allah, and He does what He wants to do. And so this is how you read the ayat. How do these ayat apply to me, specifically, individually, outside of my family, outside of the community, outside of anybody? فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Anyone there to reflect in the ayah and the sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. فَكَيْفَ كَانَ عَذَابِي وَنُذُرْ. Then Allah asks the question, then how is now my punishment and my warning? Punishment to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can punish and it is real. وَنُذُرْ, my warning is Allah's promise. One is to show Allah's might, and the other is to show Allah's promise. وَنُذُرْ, my warnings. My warnings are there. I can warn and I do warn. And that is the mission of the Rasul. The Rasul is Bashir and he's also Nadir. He gives glad tidings, but he also gives warnings to people so that people can balance and adjust themselves correctly so that they gain salvation here and also salvation over there. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarizes the sequence of the ayat, that all of this is to help human beings maneuver and navigate their lives so that nothing harmful comes to them. It is out of rahmah that He is warning. He's out of mercy. He's warning you that there's a ditch in front of you. Don't fall in it. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. One of the recurring themes or ayat in this surah, as I mentioned, is a prelude to the next surah where فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ is repeated. Here, this ayah is repeated. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Indeed, we have made the Quran easy for dhikr. Contentious is what is dhikr here? Is it memorization? Is it reciting? What is it reminding? So that's all included in the word dhikr. It's all embracing everything, all of the above. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Is there anyone who now seeks the recitation and seeks the remembrance and seeks the dhikr from the Quran? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the Quran easy for dhikr, for reciting. Okay, that's a no-brainer. We know that. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, it's quite easy to memorize surahs of the Quran. Even when you're a child, you can memorize so many surahs without even having to read the script. So before you read the script, you can memorize the dhikr. Dhikr is not remembrance. There's no higher form of remembrance and dhikr than the Quran itself. The Quran is the highest form of dhikr, as we all know. So now the Quran has been made easy for dhikr, and that is proven by every child who memorizes now Surah Falaq, Surah Nas, and Surah Ikhlas, and Surah Kawthar, Surah Fatiha, before the age of 3. It's a universal reality. You can't deny it. There's no way you can deny it. Yeah. Also for memorization. Dhikr here could also mean memorization. If you work hard enough, you will memorize the whole Quran, or at least a portion of the Quran, as he said. And also for reading, Allah has made the reading of the Quran with recitation. Reading and recitation, they go hand. Reading is obviously from the word, the written word, and memorization is from the oral tradition, the oral word. So both the written tradition and the oral tradition, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made easy. It means that a remembrance of who Allah is and what the Quran stands for. So what the Quran stands for is the message, and whatever the values the Quran brings to the surface. It's very easy to capture those values while you're reciting, while you're reading, while you're memorizing. You'll see it will stand in front of you. This is a value, this is a value, this is a value. Yeah. So this is also not true in whichever way you want to look at this ayah, it is true. And that is the proof that the Quran is the truth, basically. That in terms of just pure memorization, in terms of pure understanding, in terms of pure contextualizing what the message is, you're going to use every facet, every part of your brain in order to now be with the Quran. So that's another mu'jiza. That one book can do so much for you and your mind and your abilities and your comprehension and your application and so on. So it has to be timeless. And the reason why all of this is easy is because it is timeless. It is a sifah of Allah. It is what do you call it? An attribute of Allah that comes into you, and you process it according to your niyyah and so on. So whatever your niyyah is with the Quran, it will come to you. You should not forget it. And the way not to forget it is to read it constantly and to review it and so on. فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Muddakir comes from the word dhikr also. إِذْ some of you know, إِذْ ذَكَرَ and so on. So here إِذْ ذَكَرَ or إِذْ ذَكَرَ becomes now a reason why a Muslim must adhere to the Quran. It must be a reminder at all times. So it reminds you of your values, of your obligations, of your prohibitions. It reminds you of your ethics and morals and behavior. It reminds you of your covenants. It reminds you of your responsibilities, and it reminds you of your salat, your sawm, your zakat, your hajj. It reminds you of you, that this is the way I want to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is with the Quran. So the comprehensive, holistic panacea for all Muslims is the Quran. hold fast to the Quran and all the ayat of the Quran. And anything you want to do must be there based on the Quran, as you know, through the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But here, the idea is taysir, that Allah has made it easy. Allah facilitates. Allah makes everything easy. Yassiru wa la tu'assiru is the command of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the Sahaba. Make life easy in terms of facilitating the practice of Islam. So that is how is it? The Quran has made itself available and easy for you to read, recite, practice, apply, understand, and take with you in Jannah. It will be with you in Jannah also. That's how easy it is. It's your companion. Who is your companion in Jannah other than the other companions? The Quran will be your companion. It will always be there with you because it is Allah Himself who is with you all the time. It's a sifa of Allah, it is an attribute of Allah. Allah is always there with you, so He's going to be with you with the Quran, as we know, inshallah. So this is an introduction to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's now names and attributes. There are two types of names. One is obviously the Jalali, the formidable, the overwhelming, that are majestic, and the other are the Jamali, the beautiful names that carries a lot of rahmah, and so on. A Muslim will incorporate both sets. A Muslim's iman is not lopsided and one-sided, where it's just rahmah, rahmah, rahmah. Allah is Rahim and Kareem. Yeah, that is true, but He can be muntaqim. He can be vindictive. So don't take Him for granted. Don't take advantage of Allah's rahmah. So yeah, have a balance. Maintain your balance on your ship, and you see the ship will sail very smoothly. If you create waves, then those waves are yours, not His. So don't create the waves of sin and kufr. So the waves of sin and kufr will capsize your boat and you'll be doomed, basically. Anyway, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us from His fadl. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to recite the Quran, understand the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Quran easy for us. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمته يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.